certainly that stood out as well. But those were guys that we were high on from the beginning, and we were happy that they were where they were at, and excited to get them over here.
There's so much talent in every draft, and you probably have, when you get to a pick, 4 or 5, however many guys, they're all in that same tier. How often was Intangibles the tiebreaker or the decider, or was it what would push people up? Did you see that consistently as you guys would go through the draft process?
I think not when you're on the clock and not leading up to it. Those are the conversations that you have in the weeks leading up, and maybe to start a day. Hey, we got a couple picks here. Let's talk about these guys. Some of the character stuff could pop up at that point. But I think that's what Duke does a great job of, is ironing all those conversations out so that you're not all of a sudden getting new character developments while you're on the clock and having to sort through that. And so we're all on the same page when we're on the clock.
Kind of on the same topic, how does character and intangibles help you win football games?
It does, because they love the process. They love the grind. They're great teammates. They like to be coached. They understand how to take criticism. And ultimately, guys like that like winning, and they know all the things that come with it and what it takes to do it. And they don't just love being a football player and the things that brings with it. They like, being a football player and striving to win championships. And I think that we've added the right group of men that will continue to help us fight for that.
Zach, what character things would preclude somebody from not being a draft pool for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's depends on the person. There's a lot of things that I could answer right there that could fit into that mold. And so it's really impossible for me to throw them all out there. And so again, those are just the things that we talk about behind the scenes of what we value and what's important for us.
Players are getting bigger, faster, stronger. It's a universal thing. Every year it seems like you got 340-pound guys running 4.7s. Is just since you've been in the league, diet, nutrition, training. I mean, is it just you're seeing the development of these guys on a year-to-year basis?
Sure, and those are things that we certainly track with these guys over 12 months. How they've handled their weight. Are they disciplined in that area? Are those going to be issues that we have to deal with at our level? And so again, that's a good example of really the football character of a guy. Is he disciplined with how he controls his weight, how he works out on his own, all that kind of stuff? Is he on time regularly, or does he have issues with that? Those are things that we investigate and ultimately have to feel good about before we take the player.
Can you tell us a little bit about your 7th-round pick, Jeff Gunter?
Yeah, Coastal Carolina really, fits some depth for us as a will come in, initially as more of a DPR type guy, but we think he can really evolve and play some different roles for us. And so, he went to Coastal, went to NC State, came back to Coastal. I have not personally spoken to him, but the coaches that have, with Marion and Duff, really like his personality and feel really good about him. So speaking to him on the phone, I know he was really excited to be here. And so the reports are all that he's a tremendous kid. The staff there really enjoyed having him, and we think that he provides some value for us. In the 7th round, we're happy to get him there.
What position did you say he was playing for y'all again?
Well, he's got some flexibility there, but with his weight, he'll come in and be a defensive end, and you can move him around. But again, you guys love the versatility phrase that we've been throwing around these last couple of days. I think certainly he's got some of that for us.
DPR, was that designated pass rusher? Is that the acronym?
That's the outside linebacker position, defensive end, DPR. Ultimately, those guys are in a room and they got to learn all that stuff, and that's kind of an area for us.
So it seemed like it just fell defensive heavy in the draft, Zach. I mean, your thoughts on why you spend so much capital on defense?
Just the value that was there, and again there was I think value with the players that were there fit with the need. So you always hear people ask, are you taking best player available, or are you taking for a need? Well, we felt the combination was there that really hit us at the right spots over the course of the draft, and so again, really content with the players that were there when we took them. Certainly could have gone into the draft. If you told me there had been more offensive players taken, it wouldn't have surprised me, because there were some good ones there. But ultimately, there was the right defensive players there that we really liked and had good grades on and felt like they were a good fit for us.
How different did this draft feel to you, Zach, knowing what you just did last season, knowing what your roster is now, coming off that run in the Super Bowl? How different did this draft feel?
Well, we don't have the starter needs that maybe we felt like we've had in the past, and so. You can find the right fits, and you don't feel like you have to reach because you got a huge hole there. It is different picking at the ends of the rounds, certainly, because You can see 20 picks above you. There's some players you got high grades on and they get snatched up, or maybe in years past you could have gotten those guys. But again, we feel really good about the 6 that we're adding here. And if you told me on Wednesday that this was how it was going to shake out, I think that Duke, everybody upstairs would have been really happy with adding these 6 players to the mix. If you told us a couple days ago this is how it's going to play out.
Not that offensive linemen aren't skilled athletes, but the fact that the only offensive player taken was a lineman, no skill position players taken in an entire draft. I mean, did you expect that going in? Did you think it might shake down that way?
That was hard to predict, but certainly we're happy with the one that we got on offense. 4-time national champion, comes from a program that's done some incredible things, as solid as any program in the United States. He's about all the right stuff. He's a football guy. I think you heard Frank and Brian get up here and talk about him. We're really impressed by him. And really happy that we were able to add him to the mix, and he'll be able to come in there and compete.
Just kind of following up on that question, I think a position a lot of us thought you guys might address is the tight end position. Did you guys feel, is that because you guys feel so good about Hayden and Drew that you didn't feel like you needed to add another one? Where are you at with your tight end group?
I think it's always good to add competition there, especially at those third spots. We do feel really good about Drew and Hayden. There's a reason we've drafted Drew, and he's played a lot for us these last couple of years. And adding Hayden, we've got high expectations for him. I think you're always looking to add competition to the mix there in that group. We didn't happen to do it in this draft, and so that's just the way we went. We found value at other positions and selected those players instead.
Receiver 6 picks, which is kind of a small class. How does that impact undrafted free agents? Do you have to go out and get
A lot of them.
a lot of them for depth?
Yeah, that's why I'm going to sit here as long as I possibly can and let everybody upstairs deal with all that. But yeah, there's lots of room for these undrafted guys, and historically, there's been great opportunity here. I know none of them are going to watch this sales pitch I'm throwing out right now, but just historically, a lot of those guys have come in and performed for us well in training camp and made the team. You look at Stanley, Damian Willis, Alex Erickson, Josh Tupou. There's a million of them you can name that have found homes here and had good careers here and opportunity. And so again, we're very hopeful that we'll find a couple more in this mix of guys.
Is that where you might get your wide receiver, tight end type guys, to maybe round things out a little bit?
We're certainly going to try. Those are it's always interesting. That would be the reality show is starting now. In a war room with the coaching staff and the scouts on the phones and that's if Roger's listening, that's the pitch right there for a nice 30-minute reality TV show is immediately after the draft.
The wide receivers and tight ends. Where we thought maybe you thought you would add some. Is that something where now you go look into free agents, veterans that are still out there, where you guys kind of revisit those positions now and with that now at this point?
We always have a target number for training camp that we want to carry, and so however we fill that, whether it's through college free agency. Okay, you don't get it done in college free agency, then you evaluate what's out there so that we have our number that we want to carry to camp. So it's not something you immediately overreact to one day after the draft. We'll talk through it, and we don't get on the grass with our players here for 2 weeks. Even then, it's not what it was 10 years ago, in some of the 11-on-11 stuff that we're doing. So it's not quite the rush to make sure that you got all those positions filled. So we'll take our time and make sure that we're adding the right people.
What's the challenge like as you're building a roster when you see the talent of wide receivers, the way that teams are stacking offense is kind of like y'all are? What's the challenge in building a defense that's able to go out and win NFL games when the offenses are as good as they are in the modern
Well, I think we value smart players for sure, and we feel like on our defense, we have the talent to compete for championships, but just the overall football intelligence of our group is, as you guys will be around them, you guys and ladies will be around them here in the next couple of months and get to know them better now that COVID's kind of done. I think you all already know this, but it's a very smart group from top to bottom, and so. We value that. We think that matters. That matters in terms of just getting lined pre-snap and making the right adjustments post-snap. And so when you're combating that with the talent that's on the other side of the ball, when you got guys that can play fast and confidently and communicate, that gives you an added advantage there. And we place a lot of value on that. And we've got those guys from top to bottom on our defensive roster. Jeff, I know you were trying to get one earlier. Okay.
5 defensive players drafted, and you look at all of them, and they all seem to have ran well, tested well, 3-cone, all of that stuff, had high numbers for the most part. Is that a big factor when you're looking at getting the defense that you want and that you guys envision?
It's just part of the puzzle. We feel like on tape they're really good football players also, and who happen to test well as well. So just that combination from hearing from the scouts that scout that area, the scouts that do the crossovers and cross check some of those positions, the guys we've added, we felt like we got good opinions on those and had good conversations to where we feel like they fit our need for us and can bring value.
You anticipate a punter being a part of that undrafted class, or in a perfect world, do you bring Kevin back?
Just once, I got a free agent I'm dealing with. I just got to give him a quick response. So
This is the opening scene
great.
of a reality show.
Tell me you didn't draft a wide receiver and a tight end, that's the best pitch.
You have a position?
okay, sorry. No, go ahead.
No, do you anticipate a punter being a part of that undrafted class, or in a perfect world, is it Kevin coming back to compete with Drew?
Yeah, I think that's something we'll continue to discuss these next couple of days, and obviously Darren and I have talked a lot about that before, and so now that the dust is settled from the draft, we'll revisit that and see where we're at.
You enjoy getting to dust off your recruiting chops that you
No, nope. That's no. It's more than content to leave that behind.
On paper, you have 4 offensive line spots that are pretty settled, I would imagine, starting wise. Left guard job still open. How comfortable do you feel about the guys on the roster that are going to be competing potentially for that job? Do you want to bring in somebody else, or what's the thought at left guard?
I think right now we've drafted that position over the last couple of years. We've got young guys that, guys like Jackson, guys like Trey Hill, guys like Akeem Adeniji. Now, we just added one also. So those guys get a chance to come in here and compete. And a lot of them are in year 2 in the system, year 3 in the system. And then you got a rookie who's coming in here too. So it's an exciting evaluation that we'll have going forward here to see those guys compete, and we'll just see how it plays out. But you're right. You feel really good about 4 of those spots, and then there's just inexperience there at one spot. But we do feel confident that somebody's going to rise out of that group and give us a really good guard there.
Did you ever think you'd see a modern day draft, and you didn't draft a guy that didn't touch the ball?
Well, if you told me it's only 6 picks, the chances become higher. And again, we've got we didn't have starter needs there. And so, you're always looking for competition at depth and guys that can rise in the future. But if you're talking about a lack of an immediate need, I think the offensive skill is certainly one that doesn't jump out at you as something that you got to immediately address. But again, we're always looking for the right value.
As you guys get into phase 1, I believe you'll start Monday. What's kind of the biggest things you'll all be trying to do and establish before you get that 2 weeks on the field?
The first, just get guys back in the building, get them back in the mix of our process of getting the 2022 season underway, and then just reestablishing the chemistry. Guys have been separate for several months. Time to decompress from our last game. There's a lot of new bodies that are going to jump in the mix here. And so, again, to start to establish that chemistry that's been so important to us recently, I think I know that's the primary goal here in these first 2 weeks, getting guys in. And I'm not going to give you names. I don't know all the names, but I'm sure it's not going to be 100% attendance right out the gate, because we're just really running and lifting. And some guys have pretty good routines on their own. We'll be on the field in 2 weeks, and I expect the attendance probably to increase at that point. Again, it's all voluntary, but just what our guys have been about these last couple of years, I know that we've typically had pretty good attendance there.
Zach, I know it's early, but when the guys get back in the building, do you have some sort of this is how close we were, and this is how close we are to getting back there again?
There will be message that's just very particular to this season, and again, I won't reveal that right now, but that'll be what the team meeting's about Monday. We'll have a team meeting and then let these guys run and lift these next 2 weeks, and then really hit the ground running as more collaborative team stuff as we get on the field for phase 2, whatever that is, May 15th or whatever that date is. And we'll have a lot more meetings that take place and kind of gear us towards next year then.
As you've kind of crafted that message for what it's going to be, have you spoken to any coaches around the league that have been in a similar situation that have given you some advice on how to navigate this offseason when you're coming off from a loss?
Sure. I think there's I'm lucky, got a lot of great resources who have been in all types of situations, a lot of veteran coaches, some on staff, some not on staff, and so feel very comfortable about how to approach next year.
When y'all made the pick for Dax, was it Andrew Johnson who was really hyped when y'all made the pick?
Yes.
Is he usually that hyped? I think he was kind of the star.
Guys that have those areas, they've spent a lot of time and effort studying guys in those areas, and so it's just a happy moment for everybody.
His first rounder, so it's kind of a good moment for him.
Yeah, it's our first rounder, But yeah, it's good when guys have conviction on players, and certainly we all had conviction on Dax. So that was one that we all felt very comfortable with.
I know he was tired, but how did it go having him here in the building?
Great, very very confident, great personality. He's just one of those guys who's achieved a lot of success in his life. Premier player coming out of high school. Lived up to the expectation in 3-year junior coming out, first-round pick. He's always stepped up to the challenge. He's naturally very confident. You can tell that's because of the work that he's put in, not some facade that he puts up because he thinks he's first-round pick and I'm supposed to act this way. You can just tell there's a confidence about him that's going to fit very well in our locker room and with our organization. And just the more you get to know him, we felt great about him beforehand. You feel even better once you get a chance to spend some time with him.
Not asking anything specific, just any big,
It sounds like you're about to.
any big impressions of the draft around the league, and did anything surprise you just about the way it all went?
No, there's runs on positions. I mean, there was a point here in the 7th round, I think 8 to 10 picks were DBs. Those guys were trying to shore that up. That's always a tough one in free agency to grab some of those guys. So some of it's predictable that way, but it's interesting to see the run on the position over a period of 20 or 30 picks, and that's just the way it always goes.
Coach, you guys
kind of
Gunter. Sorry,
Go ahead.
Circling back to Gunter, is pass rush his best trait?
He's played effectively for them at Coastal, and they've had a great team. That's a team I followed from afar for a number of years now, just because they've done such a tremendous job. I think they're really innovative, both sides of the ball with their schemes. They've had a ton of success. They're now starting to have some players come out of there. And it's one of those programs when guys come out, because I remember one that came out last year, and you can just tell they're made of the right stuff. They've had high standards there at that program. They've been coached the right way. Their expectations are to win. So it's exciting when you evaluate players from programs like that that come into the building and they know that there's going to be high expectations for them. And so that's certainly a trait that he's got. I think that he's, again, one of those guys that's going to add some versatility to that room. And but he's more of an outside guy as opposed to an inside guy for us. So the definition of what his role is that's really hard to say. He's going to jump in there and provide competition for our guys that play more outside than inside, and we'll just see where we fit him from there.
Is he a good teams guy? Does he play teams?
That's one of the things we're going to figure out how much he can do. I know he's played a lot on defense there. Over the course of his career, he has appeared on teams, and then we'll see how he fits in the NFL.
Everyone good? Great, thanks.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Zach.
You bet.